welcome back for another episode of Branching Out with Sierra. Today we're on episode 39, The Leadership Prescription, Treating Your Health Like a Business Priority. I know a lot of my listeners are either business owners or very, very driven leaders in the community. And I thought it would be helpful to have another episode that takes a little bit of a different approach at looking at our health. Today I have Colleen Shendow with me, and I'm super excited about this because she is actually now working alongside Kelly Botta. You might remember that episode from Smarty Pants Medicine. So now I'm getting the other half of the business in here, learning a little bit more about her, but kind of taking a different approach to the episode. So I hope that you learn a little bit more about how we can focus on our health and be driven to be an effective leader at the same time. Thank you so much for being here today. I appreciate you taking time out of your day.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
Happy to be here.
Of course. All right. Well, everybody's going to want a little background. So I know you've given me background, so you can do the same for them. But can you share a little bit about where you're from, kind of your background, and what brought you up to this point?
Sure. So I'm actually from Berryville, Virginia, right next door. Grew up dancing, swimming competitively, doing cross country, running, always being very active. Went to UVA for undergrad and studied Spanish literature, which you wouldn't think was that applicable, but actually it is now.
Yeah.
I have some Spanish-speaking patients, so that's been really fun.
That's cool.
And then after college, just for adventure, went to Alaska ended up being 5 years. Met my now husband up there. And that's actually where I learned about direct primary care, which is what I do now. And kind of also just found out about the PA profession. Met a PA in urology, and she really convinced me that that was the way to go. Originally, I was thinking med school, and then she was awesome. She did just about as much as the doctors and was so knowledgeable, had been in the field for a really long time. So that was really cool.
I'm sure. No, that's cool. Thinking about the amount of work that a PA does in comparison to a doctor, I always feel like it's the same, that it's just a different degree. Is it pretty similar?
It definitely is, and it definitely varies by specialty.
Okay.
I think primary care is very heavy on paperwork, charting outside of hours that we're in the clinic, so ending up working very long hours. Lots of messages, inbox stuff. So I would say, yes, we spend just about as much time as doctors.
Okay. Well, I know that you recently joined Kelly's team, so congratulations on that.
Thanks.
When was it
Super
official?
Excited. January 1st is when I started.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's fresh.
Yes.
It's new. How's it going so far?
I love it. It's a good change of pace. So I've been in internal medicine for 8 years, doing the typical fee-for-service model that we all know kind of as medicine.
Yeah.
And seeing 22 patients a day, charting in my off time, working long hours, and eventually kind of got burnout.
Yeah.
So, and my average patient age was about 70. So,
Okay.
A lot of chronic disease, huge medication list. And you get 7 minutes with these people. It is not enough time to really effectively treat them and teach them about their health. So this model really gives us time with the patient because we don't have that insurance overhead. We're a membership model, so it's monthly, it's affordable. And actually, when I found out about this kind of model in Alaska, I didn't have insurance.
Okay.
And so that's why it was super interesting to me because I'm like, I could have access to primary and urgent care without spending, an arm and a leg.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's a great thing we offer the community, and definitely a way for me to do what I love and have more time with people to do it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I'd never really thought about the patient load that folks have in normal medicine, we'll call it, because I know that they walk in the door and walk out very quickly. But that 7 minutes, is that kind of behind the scenes what you guys are told is the amount of time you have?
I mean, we're not told that, but if you want to stay on time and stay on task, we get 15-minute appointments.
Okay.
And you have to think about the amount of messages that we're getting in the meantime, and the amount of time we have to spend just on the charting and the notes for these visits. And so if we're doing one right after the other, you don't get a lot of time.
Wow. And to think 22 patients a day, I'm sure this is a completely different world, because I do remember the very first time Kelly and I sat down for an appointment, I was like blown away because I had an entire hour with her. And I was like, wow, she understands my history now. Every other time, well, I had shared with you about my Lyme, I felt like I'd walk in somewhere with like a binder of all of my health information because I'm a very complex individual, right?
Yeah.
And then, okay, let's use 7 minutes for an example. We don't have time to talk about all that.
No.
And they don't have time to read all of that.
Right.
So I never felt like anyone had a clear picture of my current health. So how could they really guide me and where to go?
Yeah.
So yes, it makes total sense. Even though I do carry insurance now, which I didn't before either, I still continue to have this. And I decide when I want to do something cash-based or go through insurance, because it's not always cheaper to do that either.
It can be cheaper to do cash for sure. Yeah. I have so many examples for that, but
yes. Yeah. Oh my gosh, like MRI. Anytime I have to have an MRI, I do cash pay.
Yep.
I'm not going to run that through insurance. It's always more. So yeah, I've learned a lot.
Yes.
For sure. But you guys also have a new location, which is exciting. There was a little bit of a shift in kind of that part of the model. I was so used to, Kelly has done many things with me in this office. It's crazy. She'd come in with her table and like we could do anything.
Yeah, right.
But now you guys have a space, a physical space. Can you share where that is?
It's on Plaza Drive, kind of behind Grand Home Furnishings and Schul's in those office buildings. So it's 1824 Plaza Drive.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
It is.
She
really
should be an interior
nice.
designer.
Oh my gosh,
too.
I know. And everyone comments on that, and I'm like, I did not do any of this, but she did a great job. Yeah, it's super homey. It's comforting. It doesn't feel like a sterile environment. And we go and just chat in an office setting and not in a sterile exam room. You know, we have exam rooms, but we don't spend our time in there, you know, so, and that helps ease patients, I think, too, and makes them more comfortable sharing.
Yeah, I had a great experience when I came in for my last appointment, and I think it's super convenient being right by Sunrise. I can go do my labs.
Oh, yeah, right next door. Yeah.
It's the perfect setup.
Yeah.
All right, well, I'm glad it's going well. I'm glad that she was able to find someone like you to join the team. I know she had been looking out for somebody, and it sounds like things fell into place. So congratulations.
Yeah, this direct primary care is what I've wanted to do before PA school. So when she was in the newspaper, you know, 4.5 years ago, with the cutting of the ribbon, opening her practice, I was like, someone did it before me.
Oh, that is so funny.
So I actually reached out to her right away. So just like, this is so interesting. I'm so, you know, excited for you. And so we've just been kind of close since, which has been really nice.
Building the relationship over time.
Yep, totally.
It's the way to do it, not rush into it.
Yeah.
And it makes sense for both of you. And you're a busy mom, so I guess you have a little bit more time to focus on family too.
And that was really important for me. Getting off at 5:30, practice is 6 o'clock, games are 5:30 or 6 o'clock. Like, I was missing a lot.
Oh, I'm sure.
And so, yeah, that was really a good shift for me.
Good. All right. So when thinking about healthcare in general, is there any specific area you like to focus on that you're most passionate about?
So, yes, lifestyle, nutrition, exercise, just living healthier. And it's not that I'm anti-pharmaceuticals. Obviously, I do practice Western medicine. It's evidence-based. Prescriptions are important. There are life-saving medications, and not all diseases can be treated with lifestyle. But there are a lot that are preventable and can be treated even when it gets to that point. And so I'm really passionate about that. Again, with my internal medicine experience and my patient population before, I would see an 80-year-old who acted like a 50-year-old, the way that they exercised, walked, talked, the things that they could do, just their functioning, and then 50-year-olds that were in the shape of 80-year-olds. And so, you know, how we treat our bodies day to day, starting early, really matters. And so, I didn't always get that preventative piece because I'd see them so late in the game. It's still important.
That makes sense.
But this way I actually, get to do more of that preventative stuff that people don't really know about that's happening already that they don't realize.
Yeah.
So.
No, and I like what you said about, obviously, medicine, pharmaceuticals, they do have a place.
Oh, totally.
That makes sense. I don't like the all or nothing mindset.
No.
You can't be that way in my mind. You have to meet somewhere in the middle. How can I naturally take care of what I can take care of, and what do I need to supplement with that
definitely
I can't do on my own, right? So that makes a lot of sense to me. Thinking about starting with exercise. So I heard you say you were a cross country runner. That my ears I immediately thought that was my entire middle school, high school career was focused on running.
Yeah.
So I'm obsessed. Are you a runner?
I am a runner, and actually now I do triathlons.
Oh,
so
look at you.
Yeah, so I had my competitive swimming all the way through high school, and my running, and I continued running, doing races, doing half marathons mostly. Trained for a marathon, didn't make it all the way to that, but still do a ton of races just running. But then found the world of triathlon, and why be an expert in one thing when you can be mediocre at 3?
I like that mindset.
So it's like cross training. It mixes it up. It's not cheap by any means, but I love it.
That's so cool. Yeah, I've not really explored all that. My exercise regimen changed a bit when I had all the muscle atrophy from my Lyme disease and being on bed rest. So bouncing back from that has been very, very hard for me. So it's this balance of kind of having to listen to my body and know that I'm not capable of what I used to be able to do, which is very annoying when I'm telling it to do something and it's not
doesn't
working.
Want to.
Yeah. But also a lack of time, which you hear a lot of people, I'm sure, say, I don't have time to exercise. I don't have time to take care of my body.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, when you think about exercise and the way in which exercise could prevent any chronic disease, what is the relationship and what types of exercise can we more easily integrate without doing triathlons? Because a lot of our listeners aren't going to jump into that.
Right. Yeah, totally. Although literally anyone can. I'll just say that.
Okay.
But I mean, I've been there for 11 years since having kids. I didn't have the time or thought that I didn't have the time. Yeah. But it's because we don't make it a priority. So when we have business meetings, phone calls, conferences, traveling, commuting, that is pressing. That's in your face, especially if you have family and obligations outside of work on top of that. It can seem like you don't have a lot of time. I have found personally early mornings are best. When your energy level is going to be higher, you still have that bandwidth because let's be honest, at the end of the day, when you're home and done at 9:30 at night, the last thing you want to do is get on a treadmill and run. So for working professionals in general, I say if you can do it in the morning, do it in the morning. And even if it's only 20 minutes, I think we can all find 20 minutes. How many times do we spend 20 minutes scrolling on TikTok or Instagram or, lose track of time? So you can definitely integrate that with kind of your daily routine too. If you're a TV watcher or audiobooks or something like that, you can turn on while you're, walking or what have you. So exercise in general does a lot for our physical health and our mental health. So it helps the process of insulin resistance, which is really common. And happens pretty early, and a lot of people don't even know that it's happening. Health of our arteries, for cardiorespiratory fitness, for longevity, especially thinking about health span, not just lifespan. So making it to 80 is great, but what kind of shape are you going to be in when you're 80? I think that's really important. And mentally, having a lack of exercise and proper nutrition leads to anxiety, depression, poor sleep. They kind of all go hand in hand. So it can definitely help with energy levels and mood, concentration, focus, all of that kind of stuff. So
it's funny that you say that, because I just had that conversation with a client the other day who said, like, she's so drained all the time. She feels tired all the time. And when I suggested exercise, like, it's like, well, I don't have the energy for exercise. I'm like, no, but it gives you more energy.
Yeah. No, people don't understand that. It seems counterintuitive. You're like, no, I'm tired. I need to rest. No, actually it does. It gives you energy, especially if you're doing it earlier in the day. It's gonna give you energy throughout the day. It's going to last. So I hear that a lot. I'd say 90% of my patients, that's one of their complaints, is like, I'm just so tired.
But I'm already tired.
I don't have any energy for anything else. So yeah, it's super common.
Yeah. Well, I also, and I agree, you make time for what's important to you. And so when I help clients structure their day, I start with everything but work. And I say, like, what would you want to have in every day? Okay. Or is it reading? Is it, listening to podcasts, exercise, actually sitting down and eating a meal and thinking about what you're eating and not just like sucking it down, moving to the next thing. And we structure their day so that they can see we can put all of that in there first.
Yes.
And then fill in the work.
I love that.
And the moment that they realize, oh yeah, it does fit into 24 hours, because I love proving them wrong. That's my thing too. It's like they're like, no, there's no way I can fit all of this in. I'm like, it's a math equation.
Yep.
And it's going to work. Let's do it.
My dad always told me that growing up. He would be adding up the hours in the week. And I'm like, Dad, you just don't understand. I mean, who wants to listen to their parents when they're teenagers? But yeah, I mean, I do. I tell them, put it in your calendar. Schedule it like it is the most important business meeting you have that day.
Yeah.
That 20 minutes.
It really should be.
It should be. Yes. So that you can perform at your best when you are at work.
No, I love that. That's a really good point. Speaking of dads, I was thinking about what you were saying about as people are getting older, how they actually feel their health at that age. I'm not going to say my dad's old, because he's probably going to listen. Yeah. He's older.
Yeah.
And he gets compliments every time he goes to the doctor he's been taking supplements since, goodness, I think he said like in his 20s, honestly. Yeah. He has been on top of his health forever, and it's making a difference, and he's in good shape. He's supposed to be going out west to do the Tetons here soon, so that's awesome. Exciting.
Yeah.
But it really does make a difference. I look at other people that are the age of my parents, and I'm like, what's the difference here? Like, what happened? And it makes me realize how much is within our control.
Yeah, totally. I had a lot of people in my former practice that would tell me if I had known that I was going to live this long, I would have taken better care of myself. Ooh. And so I try and impart that to people who are younger. Yeah. I'm like, hey, this is what these, when you get to this age, I don't want you to feel that way.
Yeah.
And it starts now. And a lot of people that say when they get to retirement, it's not the golden years, it's the rusty years.
Oh no.
And again, I don't want them to feel like that either. And plaque buildup in the arteries starts in adolescence.
Interesting.
So we are all building plaque in the arteries, and heart disease is the #1 cause of death in America.
Okay.
So if you think of plaque buildup in the arteries heading towards cardiovascular disease, we're all in that car, if you think of it as a car, driving to the cliff.
Okay.
It's always moving, but you have control on how much you're pressing on the gas to get closer to that cliff, or how much you put on the brake. So, I use the lifestyle to kind of say, hey, let's put the brake on more. You're never going to stop the car. Yeah. We're all going there. And maybe not to cardiovascular disease, but like I said, we may not die from it. We will all die with it. And that is actually a phrase from Peter Attia. Oh. He's a doctor that's focuses on longevity. Okay. So, yeah, I listen to a lot of his stuff. He's great.
I think that's an awesome analogy, though, because I'm a visual person, so I can literally picture that. But it goes back to, I always question what's within my control. And these are things that are within my control. And believe me, I go through phases, too, where I'm like, oh, no, I was telling you before the episode, right now my finances are a priority, so I can't take care of my health, right? You tell yourself that. but how can you really focus on both at the same time?
Yeah.
I always think about how can I set myself up for success, even if it's, okay, if you're exercising first thing in the morning, is it laying my workout clothes out like the night before?
Yes, I tell people to do that.
Yeah, when you get up, they're already there. It's
less
like
excuses.
You're one step closer. Yeah. Do you have any other good tips like that?
Don't think about it. That's what I tell people in the morning, especially sit up, put your feet over the side of the bed. Do not think about it. If you give yourself time to think about it, you'll talk yourself out of it. We're good at talking ourselves out of things. So put on your shoes and just go.
Have you ever heard the 5-second rule for that?
No.
Mel Robbins came up with it, and it's like she counts down from 5 like she's a rocket about to launch, and when she gets to 0, she stands her butt up and she goes and does the thing that she wants to avoid doing. She doesn't give herself the time to convince herself not to do it. And then actually this week I was sharing with one of my accountability groups the 5-minute rule, which is if you allow yourself to do this, set the timer for 5 minutes and do the thing, commit to 5 minutes. Once you've got the momentum, you're there.
You keep going.
You're going to keep going.
Yep.
And that's what it takes. So yeah, there are lots of good tips like that. But a lot of people don't know how to best move their body too. Like how would someone decide where to even begin?
So 2 things. And these are kind of, I think that they're simple and you can apply them even without a gym membership. Okay. So one of them is called the Norwegian 4x4, and it's been proven to improve cardiorespiratory fitness.
Okay.
And VO2 max, which I'm not going to go in. That could literally be an hour in and of itself. But essentially, it's interval training.
Okay.
And it does not take more than 28 minutes. So it's 4 minutes of going hard, and that's different for everybody. Yeah. So getting, up to your almost max heart rate. And then 4 minutes easy. And so if you go on a walk, you can be walking quickly.
Okay.
If you have a treadmill and you're only walking, you're not a runner, let's just say, put that incline up and walk up a hill. Okay. You're going to get your heart rate up. And then for that next 4 minutes, put it down flat and walk slow and give yourself recovery time. And you repeat that 4 times.
Oh, okay.
You do a little bit of a warm up, a little bit of a cool down, but it doesn't take that long, and just 1 to 2 times a week it's been proven. So you don't even have to do it every single day.
Nice.
Okay. And so that's an easy one. Another one that's really important that we don't focus on is strength training.
Okay.
So as you were talking about earlier, losing all that muscle mass and how hard it is to get it back.
So hard.
I tell people that, especially in our 40s, our body composition naturally changes. We lose muscle mass, we gain fat. So only way to combat that is a high protein diet and strength training. And again, only has to be 2 times a week. And there's, even without a gym membership, there are free online videos, especially YouTube, for women perimenopausal age and menopause. There's specific ones, Caroline Gervin and Petra Ginkgo. They have really good, and they're like 20 minutes.
Oh, perfect.
So again, and it's just dumbbells and, bands. So it's, you don't have
cans of soup.
Or cans of soup. Yeah, literally the other day
Pick up an object.
I used apple cider vinegar, because I couldn't find a 2-pound weight. So, yeah, literally anything. So, excuses can be low.
Yeah. No, those are great pieces of advice. I think I'm going to try you said it's the Norwegian what?
Norwegian 4x4.
4x4. Okay, and I do have a question, and it's okay if you don't know this calculation on the spot, but how do you tell your max heart rate? Because I feel like I've looked it up before, and I get different answers in different places.
It's because there's probably 10 ways to calculate it. The most common is 220 minus your age.
Okay.
But that's not accurate for everyone. And I will say I am addicted to my Garmin.
Okay.
And it adjusts my max heart rate for me.
Oh.
So, mine should be probably 180 and it's 192.
Okay.
So, yeah, there are general calculations like that are pretty easy. And then there's ones that are really in depth and you could go into a lab and have it calculated.
Okay.
Or doing, the 30-minute exercise thing to calculate it. But the easiest way is just 220 minus your age.
Okay. That's helpful.
And then, so the Norwegian 4x4 is doing probably 80 to 90% of that max heart rate for that hard 4 minutes. And if you're not going to check your pulse and you don't have a smartwatch, you can go by feel. You can tell, like, oh my gosh, I'm going hard right now. My breathing, you know, it's harder to breathe. My heart rate's up. I'm getting sweaty. Like, you know.
Yeah, you can tell a difference. Okay, but I have to ask because I know people are always interested. I have a page now of like my essentials of what I encourage people to buy to help with different areas of life. We could throw some of these on here. I have an Apple Watch, so that's how I track things for my exercise, but it's not in as much detail as I'm sure what you have. So tell us what you have.
I have a Garmin. I think it's the 965.
Okay.
There's literally a ton of variations, but I feel like Garmin is a bit more for athletic type stuff, and it's a multi-sport watch, so there's a setting for triathlons where it'll go through all 3 of those things for me. So I just have to click a button in between each one to switch from my swim to my run, you know, biking to my run. But it literally tracks everything, my sleep, and so it gives me a sleep score, which I'm always super interested in, which affects heart rate variability, which is another kind of thing that helps you know how stressed you are, how good your sleep is, if you're working out too much and fatigued. So it's affected by a lot of different things, but it does that. I mean, it literally tracks so many things.
Wow.
I'm addicted.
Okay. I saw you light up a little bit when you said your Garmin, and I'm that way with some of the things I use, so I figured I'd let you share about it.
And Apple's good, but this battery lasts 15 days.
Oh, that's different. Yeah. Because I'm pretty sure by now,
like a day,
it doesn't even last. It's usually till like 3 p.m. now. It's done for.
And I don't remember to charge things every day. So this was a game changer
that's so
too.
Cool.
Yeah,
I might have to check that out. I'll report back on how much I love it.
Yep.
But going along with that, though, I feel like when I have a tool like that or something, it almost encourages me more to lean into the exercise and. Everything for me is, I love data and analytics.
Exactly.
So having the numbers to support my decisions for my health, that's huge.
It gives you feedback. And so you really have data on your health.
Yeah.
And it, like I said, it calculates things like your VO2 max, which I was talking about. So that's your, goes into your fitness age too. So it's fun to see your fitness age be less than your actual age.
Yeah, I'm scared to see that, actually.
But as a data person too, I like that feedback.
Well, I was thinking about the fact that when you're speaking of preventative care, having baseline data through blood work too is really helpful. Do you want to speak to that? I'm not the one that should be saying that here. Can you explain what are the types of things that people should be getting some baseline data on, even if they're not having health challenges, tracking? Yes.
So a lot of different things. The basic panel that we do for annual physicals is a blood count, a chemistry panel, which includes blood sugar that's fasting, electrolytes, kidney function, liver, enzymes, cholesterol, thyroid and vitamin D2 plus or minus. So the biggest things that we look at, and the most common thing that happens is metabolic syndrome, and that is a precursor to prediabetes, diabetes, which then quadruples your risk of heart disease.
Wow.
And there's changes that you can see really early on that I think a lot of people don't address. They'll just tell someone, hey, your cholesterol's a little bit off. Well, that means more than just your cholesterol, right? So insulin resistance and metabolic syndrome that I'm referring to starts with low good cholesterol. The only real way to get that up is exercise. High bad cholesterol and high triglycerides, which triglycerides are kind of the fat floating in the bloodstream, and a lot of that is from diet, too many carbohydrates, starches, and then high fatty foods. And then fasting blood sugar. So as that creeps up, again, all of those go hand in hand with the insulin resistance that happens in our bodies. And that, like I said, that's a big alarm. We should think that is huge. And I think we just kind of gloss over it and like, oh, we'll just work on this. Like, no, this is a huge deal.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, and some more things for cholesterol too that we don't check in the United States that they do in Europe, and we really should.
Oh.
ApoB and LP(a). So ApoB is a lipoprotein that is on, or it's a protein that's on all the cholesterol molecules, where our standard lipid panel doesn't calculate everything.
Okay.
And so that really gives us a better idea of how many particles we have that are plaque causing. And we know the more particles, the more it's going to cause plaque. And LP(a) is a lipoprotein that is the most atherogenic, the most plaque causing, and that's genetically determined. So this is really important in people who have a family history of heart disease, especially early heart disease. So like, oh, my dad died of a heart attack at 55. Well, that's huge for you. That actually means a lot. And that's a good screening tool. It's an independent risk factor for cardiovascular disease.
Yeah, I think I remember Kelly running that for me and how excited we were.
Exactly. And we don't do it standardly.
Yeah.
And insurance gets in the way a lot of times and says that it's super expensive. It's really not. I mean, especially with our cash pay prices, which you have to be a patient for.
Yes.
It's pretty cheap. So yeah.
Okay, so we talked about the exercise a little bit. We know that people are busy, but it sounds like if we could give an amount of time per day, what is the recommendation that you want people to try and set aside?
So the American Heart Association says 75 minutes a week of vigorous exercise or 150 minutes a week of moderate.
Okay.
I mean, I would say if you can just fit those 2 days a week of your cardiovascular Norwegian 4x4 and 2 days of strength training, that's a really good start.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's shift over to the diet side, the nutrition side, as she lights up. Okay.
Listen, I talk to all my patients about this, especially in their first visit, whether they like it or not.
Okay.
So.
All right, bring it on. What do you have? What do we need to know?
So I typically do a dietary recall. So I normally say, tell me what you ate yesterday. Everything. Breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks, drinks. Give me the rundown. I'd say 90% of people say, oh, well, yesterday was a bad day. And I'm like, let's be honest, there's a lot more bad days than good days. Just in society and in the U.S., we have too much access to highly palatable, nutrient-efficient, calorie-dense foods. So I really harp on starches, carbohydrates, and protein. So I think protein is the unsung hero, really. We don't talk about that a lot. We used to focus a lot on fat and this, the low-fat diet, which was really misleading and not really helpful for health in our country. But carbohydrates are the devil. We need some, especially for exercising. We need a little bit more. But things like bread, pasta, rice, potatoes, and anything made out of that, anything in a box, typically that's very processed. Obviously sweets because they have sugar, but those starches turn to sugar as soon as we eat them, and I don't think everyone knows that.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like eating a candy bar, depending on, what bread it is. What that does over time is it shoots your blood sugar up. Sugar's toxic in the blood, so the pancreas has to produce insulin to use that for energy.
Okay.
If there's too much, it gets stored as fat, and it gets stored as the unhealthy fat around our organs. And so that's when we start to see the abdomen size, increase, which is the risk factor for the insulin resistance, diabetes, heart disease that I was talking about. So over time, what happens, and when we start to see this, we call it impaired fasting glucose, so this creep up of blood sugar where it's not diabetes, but it's a little bit above normal on labs. As you have these continuous spikes of blood sugar and insulin levels, our bodies become resistant to the insulin. It's so used to it, it's in the blood, so that makes our blood sugar stay a little bit higher, and it's kind of a snowball effect. And the cells in the pancreas become inactive or die over time from that overuse of the pancreas. And so by the time people have diabetes, a lot of those cells are dead or inactive. We have not in science figured out how to reactivate them. So again, earlier is better.
The sooner the better.
Soon as we pick up on those. And it's not something you feel, right? This is not something on a daily basis you're like, oh, I can feel that my triglycerides are high and my good cholesterol is low. But like, that's why these screening labs are so important.
Yeah.
To pick up on this before our pancreas is worn out and we're headed towards diabetes. So calculating grams of carbohydrates, having people track their food. There's food tracking apps. Makes it really easy. There's, AI. You can literally snap a picture of your plate and it calculates everything for you. It's amazing.
That is amazing.
And then the protein. So muscle, super important for baseline metabolism, energy levels, stabilizing blood sugar levels, and muscle mass supports our bones and increases our basal metabolic rate and helps with longevity. So like the strength training, high protein, we do not get enough protein in our diet. And again, when we go through food logs with people, like they're really protein deficient, and the amount that we need is a lot higher than the recommended daily allowance that you'll find, through the, FDA or, whatever the general guidelines are. So really it should be 1.5 grams per kilogram of body weight minimum.
Wow.
Up to 2, depending on activity level and age. So, and that's a lot of protein if you think about it.
Protein.
I mean, like for me, that'd be, I try and get 150 grams a day.
That's a lot of protein.
It is.
I mean, in comparison to what I know the average person eats.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So good sources of protein, meats obviously, but try and stay away from the, really saturated fat meats like pork and beef. You can do that, just not every single day. So fish, chicken, turkey, dairy, as long as it doesn't have added sugar, that's going to give you protein. And then plant-based would be nuts and beans, legumes, mostly. We don't absorb as much protein as it will say on the nutrition label for plant-based.
Okay.
So obviously we are a mammal, so we absorb more and can use more from animal sources of protein. A lot of times I tell people they're going to have to supplement with protein shakes or protein bars to get that in.
Do you actually have any recommendations on healthiest options for that? Because there are a lot of protein bars and shakes out there that I look at, and the amount of sugar and stuff, I have no idea which one to actually go with.
Yes.
What do you do?
I do Premier Protein.
Okay.
I'm a big Costco member.
Okay.
Like I give you
I literally could picture it at Costco.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So I do that a lot. I think it's got 4 grams of carbs. So, and I think it tastes good. That's the other thing, is finding one that tastes good, because some of them taste like chalk. So it's really sometimes a trial and error. But I tell people to stay under 6 to 8 grams of carbs in their protein shake or protein bar.
Okay.
Yeah, because there's some hidden sugars in there for sure. Yeah.
So we take someone who says that they already don't have time for exercise, and now you're telling me that I have to put all of this effort into choosing the right foods to eat. Like, what recommendations do you have for your patients when it comes to even getting started with improving their nutrition?
So it's all about what you buy and what you bring into your house. If it's not there, you can't eat it, right? And eating out's a huge culprit, because you don't know what they're putting in it. And fair. They come in large portions. So eating home as much as possible. A couple of things that I tell people is using ChatGPT for meal planning, and it'll give you literally 7 days of a meal plan of whatever you tell it to. High protein, low carb diet, Mediterranean diet, and it'll give you the grocery list and even recipes based on that. Wow. I use Instacart.
Okay.
So that saves a ton of an hour. It's easily saves me an hour at the store each time I use it. And it'll save your previous purchases. So you just put that back in the cart. So the more you do that, and you just pick it up, or you can even get it delivered. So that also decreases those impulse buys when you're at the store and you're like, oh, cookies. No, that's not going to be on your list when you purchase it on Instacart. Also, the meal delivery plans are a really good way to get healthy foods in without spending a lot of time. Okay. They get delivered to your door with, the whole foods, the produce and the meats and the recipe. You just have to put it together. So, And that also gives people good recipes
Yeah.
for future too.
People always say that it costs more to eat healthy, right? So are there any, I'm just curious, anything that you consistently put in your cart where you're like, actually, this isn't that expensive. It's an easy way to put something healthy in your diet and not spend a lot?
Yeah, so I do have people say that a lot. And my response is, guess what's more expensive? Diabetes and healthcare when you get to be 50 and 60. So,
all right, that's a fair response.
Yes. And
short-term versus long-term,
exactly.
right?
I do a lot of Aldi shopping. It's so cheap. I mean, they're cheap because there's one brand. You know, I mean, you get one, maybe two options. They don't put dyes in their food. There's a ton of organic options for produce that are way cheaper than like Martin's. So yeah, I'd say going to stores like that really helps. And then it is kind of a mindset shift of, yeah, it's more expensive right now, but in the long term, it's worth it.
Oh, I think that's a great point. Okay, I'm curious, and you don't have to share if you don't want to, but I'm wondering, was there a point of time in your life where you weren't taking great care of yourself and you could see a difference in your like daily performance? So I think about the people that I work with on a regular basis. They're talking about brain fog. They're, just constantly having health issues, but more with like clarity and mental stuff, right? Yep. Decision fatigue happens all the time with a lot of the leaders that I know. Have you seen an impact on how you're taking care of yourself to like how you're able to handle situations in the workplace?
100%.
Yeah.
So actually, even though I've been this health nut my whole life, I didn't always eat the best. Okay. I've always been an exerciser as much as I can, but I used to be a starchaholic. Okay. And it wasn't until I had gestational diabetes with my third and had to be on insulin and checking my blood sugar 5 times a day that it was really eye-opening to me what I was putting in my body and how it was affecting me. Yeah. And with my family history, I'm predisposed to diabetes. And now that I have that history, 50% more likely to have diabetes, and so are my children. And after I had that experience, and I actually wore the continuous glucose glucometer, which I recommend to a lot of people, even not diabetics, even pre-diabetics, or when they start to have that cholesterol shift. It's available over the counter now for $89 for a month. And so I'm like, just invest one time, 1 month. You will get instant feedback on what your food is doing to you.
You can literally see what
it's doing to you. And prior to that, I look back and I'm like, oh my gosh, I would get so tired. I would get that brain fog. I had hypoglycemic episodes, so my blood sugar would drop every hour or two, which made it hard functioning at work because I'd be in the middle of a visit with a patient and I'm like, I can feel I'm getting tired. I'm getting shaky. My mind's not clear. I need a snack right this second, but I don't have time right now to grab, so I was having to eat like every hour or two and have a snack. What I didn't realize is that's actually a precursor to prediabetes. So I was eating this starchy food without protein and my blood sugar was spiking and then dropping. And that constant shift in blood sugar was affecting my concentration, my focus, was giving me brain fog, was giving me fatigue. And so after having diabetes, gestational diabetes, and started adding more protein, I could last 3 hours. My energy was so different. My mind was clearer. I wasn't getting those drops. I wasn't tired, irritable. It made a huge difference.
Okay, so thinking about how you can maintain like high energy levels throughout the day, I'm hearing you say protein. So is that keeping drinks and bars with you? And how often, do you recommend that someone be snacking on something to help with that?
Yeah, so I don't think you have to snack constantly. Okay. And there's some experts that say actually having that constant input isn't the best thing for you. But if you do get at least 30 to 40 grams of protein in a meal. That should last most people 3 to 4 hours before they're hungry again. So it decreases your hunger levels too, and helps with satiety. And like I said, it stabilizes your blood sugar, so you're not having those drops where you're like, I need something right now, you know. And it helps with the snacking, so you're not constantly snacking. Types of things in food that help your brain, omega-3 fatty acids. So that's kind of why the Mediterranean diet is really touted as being healthy for your arteries and your cognition. So fish, a lot of fish.
Okay, so I almost burst out laughing.
Flaxseed.
So my dad always will eat a bag of goldfish and go, I'm getting my omega-3, Sierra.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry, right. I like almost cracked up because he's going to listen and be like, see, I'm doing the right thing.
Right? Yes. And walnut and flaxseed, those are other kind of omega-3s. And if people do not like fish, I tell them to supplement with a fish oil, krill oil, salmon oil, something like that. You can get them at Target for super cheap. And that really supports brain health, especially in children, like brain development. That's really important too. And then flavonoids in berries help with memory.
Okay.
So I have berries every single day. And again, if you pair them with protein, they're not going to spike your blood sugar, despite what some people think. You know, when they're on the keto, they're like, oh, sugar or fruit. It's, you know, it's all just sugar. And I'm like, actually, but it has these nutrients that are super important for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the nuts and the beans are really important for brain health too. So
when I was on a gluten-free diet, actually I had to eliminate a lot of things from my diet for about a year to do a total reset, anti-inflammatory kind of thing. And I actually gained weight because the gluten-free foods had so much additional stuff in them to kind of make up for what was lacking, right?
Yep.
And at that time, I was also eating a lot of fruit, and that almost, I took it to the extreme in my mind, and I was like, oh, yeah, well, it's too much sugar, so I'm not going to eat as much because I'm gaining weight because I'm eating so much fruit, right? But that's not really how it works, so I'm glad that you pointed that out.
And bananas are a culprit of causing high blood sugar. So if you do a banana, put some nuts with it or peanut butter and cheese. So anytime you pair carbs with protein, your blood sugar is not going to spike. It's going to do this, which is a lot better for your brain, for clarity, for brain fog, and for your arteries.
Yeah. I'm going to throw something totally random at you.
Okay.
You know, I think about the people and the level of influence that they might have on those around them, and always kind of modeling these things for other people in their life. Like, what does it look like to make your health a priority in the workplace and get others on board? Have you seen that successfully done before?
Yes. I had so many people comment on my nutrition at work at my previous job because I always had food, but it was pretty nutritious stuff. And actually, when I'm with patients sometimes, I will show them, hey, this is my lunch. This is what this looks like.
People always want to know what doctors, PAs, whatever, what do you do? How do you exercise? What do you eat? You know what I mean? It's like the insider info.
Right. Well, it's hard to take advice from someone that's not doing it.
Yeah.
So, modeling super important. And accountability, super important. Yeah. So when you're talking about you had an accountability
an accountability group.
Yes.
Accountability is a big part of my life.
Yes.
But I hold a lot of other people accountable, and I talk about how I have to have my own accountability partners that are on my case.
Goes both ways.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. It
I have a group of girls that we train together, and so that helps with my 5:30 a.m. workouts on days that I'm like, I'm not feeling this, and I think about it too much, and I'm like, they're waiting for me. They're literally in a parking lot.
You don't want to disappoint them.
Waiting for me to run, you know. So I don't want to disappoint them. And the days that they're feeling down, I'm like, get your butt over here. So it helps.
Okay, we talked about exercise outside of the workday, but how can you kind of infuse some sort of physical activity into the workday?
Yeah. So, not a lot of people get lunch breaks, but lunch breaks, if you can, and with accountability and socialization, kind of kill two birds with one stone. Get a work buddy to go on a walk on lunch. 10 minutes after you eat. And that also is going to help your blood sugar levels too. And your energy in the middle of the day, I feel like we all have that afternoon crash. So it'll help energize you too. I used to do stairs at work. We had a 3-story building, so I'd spend 5 minutes going up and down the stairs. You know, it was just something to get my blood flowing again.
Just wear your deodorant that day.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, if I start to get sweaty, I'm like, okay,
sweating.
maybe slow down. Yeah. And I actually have a friend who has one of those walking mats. I don't know if you've seen those.
I have some friends with those. I've been thinking about it.
She's walked 2 miles a day on that thing just being on conference calls. So.
Yeah, see, that's good. Okay, well, I'll tell you what I'm working through right now. Thank you to Bev Steitley, who I know listens to every episode. I received a standing desk that I can raise it and lower it. And I've been using it and standing almost the entire day.
Okay,
right? Great. Which sounds great. And then I have friends sending me articles saying, well, they're actually finding it really isn't making that much of a difference, and it's giving people varicose veins and all their blood, like, I just don't know what to do.
Yeah.
Everything I go to do, I find out I'm doing the wrong thing, and it's killing my feet. I have to get a solution for that. Like, I put a mat down the other day to stand on because now my feet are killing me.
Right.
But I stand for 10 or 12 hours.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it has to be better than sitting, right?
Right. Yeah. Maybe go up and down.
Yeah.
Maybe stand a little bit and then sit down a little bit.
It's this all or nothing mindset, Colleen.
I can't. Hard. Yes, I know. Yeah. And I have a lot of patients that have that all or nothing, and it really stops them from doing things sometimes too.
Yeah.
Because they're like, well, I already ruined the day, so let me just continue on
we'll
this
start
path.
Again tomorrow.
Exactly. But then it just, it snowballs, and it's hard to get back on track. So, yeah, that all or nothing is... Yeah, gotta work on that. Yeah,
it gets in the way. No, these are great tips. So thinking about anything else in the workplace, I'm curious. Do any businesses in the area, and you don't have to state specifically, of course, actually work with you guys to where all of their employees have access to healthcare? Because that would be pretty genius.
Yes, we do have businesses. And it's actually a great solution for all kinds of businesses, especially the ones that either are smaller, can't offer health insurance, or can't afford to offer, the gold Cadillac kind of insurance and do the higher deductible, and then provide the service to their employees, because the employees are more likely to go and get preventative care when they know that it's covered.
Yeah.
And that they have access, and they're not going to pay a copay every time. They don't pay copays. And so I've had, actually through these businesses, patients who haven't seen primary care in 5 years, 10 years. But because the company's paying for it, and they're like, you have to go at least for the initial visit. They're like, wow, this is amazing. This is,
They've been missing
I haven't focused on my health in, 10 years. And that helps the company because their employees are going to be more productive.
That's such a great point.
Yes.
So the employees feel valued and cared about because you are providing the service for them, right? But then their productivity, their mental clarity, everything's improving.
Yep.
So it's also going to help the bottom line, honestly.
Yeah.
So it's a no-brainer.
And we do telemedicine, same day, next day visits. So that helps decrease absenteeism too, because we can help them when they need it, and help them get back to work quickly and help them,
Is there like an
better.
ideal business size that you guys look at partnering with?
Yeah, so we have anything from businesses with 10 employees to 500. Again, I think it really could work for any business, but especially the ones that either can't afford to give their employees the full insurance, or self-insured companies. So it actually reduces their overall cost for healthcare, because they're going to be paying it either way. So if we can save them money, which we do, especially with our low-cost labs and imaging and things like that, and we prove to them, hey, this is how much we have saved you, versus using insurance for everything, because they jack the prices up so much. You go and pay cash for a mammogram, it'd be $200. You try and put it through insurance, $900.
It drives me insane.
Yep. I mean, everything is just marked up. So if a company's self-insured, they're still having to pay that. So it really helps them too.
Yeah. Well, I hope that folks listening would consider it, even if they're not a decision maker for their company. Get them to listen to the episode and think about it, right? Something that we haven't mentioned, I don't know if it'll get you like all excited, like the we'll exercise and nutrition, sleep.
Yes.
Another thing that a lot of leaders that I speak with kind of give up in order to get the job done. So what do we do about that?
Oh, yes. Loaded question. So
you're welcome.
Well, first let's talk about what sleep does.
Okay.
So it affects your hormones. It makes you hungrier. It decreases your satiety hormones, increases your hunger hormones. It affects mood, concentration, focus. It can cause depression and anxiety. It weakens your immune system, so you're more susceptible to infections and slower healing. It really affects everything.
Yeah.
So it's the time thing, right? I mean, there's so many hours in the day. But again, it has to be a priority. For, sleep hygiene in general, I tell everyone kind of the same thing. So you have to have like a routine and try and stick to that routine. So, staying up till 1 a.m. one night and expect to be tired at 9 a.m. the next night isn't really going to happen. So kind of sticking to a routine, keeping your bed for just sleep. Don't work in your bed. Don't watch TV in your bed. Like that is your sleep place, so that when you get in bed, that's what your body is and your mind is correlating the bed with. Keeping your room really dark and cool, and winding down screens. You have to stop the screen time an hour before you want to go to bed, because that blue light interferes with the melatonin in our brain, making us less tired, makes it harder to fall asleep. Meals, don't eat a large meal and snack before bed, like 3 hours before you sleep, kind of stop that. And again, if you're staying up late, like I said, that hunger hormone is being released more, and that's going to make you want to snack more. So if you go to bed, you won't be snacking, and you won't want to snack. I think there are changes that not everyone wants to make because they're hard.
Yeah. Well, you have to start somewhere.
Yes.
And all very good tips, by the way. I hope the person sitting out there is listening.
Yeah.
Just, for someone that has had such a messed up sleep cycle for so long, like, do you know of a good way to reset it? So he was in the fire service, and ever since he worked those shifts, I think he's been a mess. I'm sorry I'm telling on you. There was one day this week where he got 0 minutes of sleep the entire night.
Oh, yeah.
0.
Okay.
I can't even fathom functioning that way. If something happens and I get 6 instead of 8, I basically can't function.
Yep, you feel it.
Yeah, how do you reset?
So morning sunlight is super important for our brains. Okay. So seeing that first kind of sunlight helps our circadian rhythm, helps that morning cortisol, which is the wake up hormone. We don't want to stay in cortisol all the time with high cortisol, but that really helps. And then your exercise, your activity level is going to help, with your energy throughout the day, so that when you get to nighttime, your body and your mind, they're tired. And then you make yourself get in bed. You do all of those things I talked about, right? And you make yourself get in bed. And then you have to get up. Like, you can't sleep in. So like I said, it has to be a routine. Yeah. But that morning sunlight's really important.
Okay.
And a lot of us don't get that, because we get up, we get ready, maybe commuting, you get a little bit of that. But a lot of us, like even me sometimes, I just go straight to the office. I'm not, I can tell on the days that I go for runs early in the morning, I feel so much better. And a lot of that is kind of the sun coming up and seeing that mixed with my physical activity. So if you can get that in, that 5 or 10 minutes of like outside kind of early sunlight, that will help too.
That's great. Thank you for sharing that.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we've talked about exercise, nutrition, and sleep. Anything else that you're super passionate about when it comes to health that you wanted to share?
Chronic stress.
Okay.
So,
oh no, you went there.
I know.
That's
what
he says. I'm dying because of it. I've heard that multiple times this week.
Yeah. Well, everything that I talked about that sleep does, the chronic stress does also.
Yeah.
So, when, like I said, that cortisol is high all the time and you're in that fight or flight constantly, it leads to the chronic fatigue, and that, mental clarity issue and the mood changes, the mood swings, less adaptability, less creativity. So that chronic stress is a problem. I think one kind of easy way, and it doesn't take a lot of time. Now, if you think if you put all these things together, you're like, oh, this is a lot of time. But meditation, it's a big one, and mindfulness. So, and they prove just 5 minutes a day helps. And there's different types of meditation. You can get apps that are guided. So you literally just listen, and they'll go through visualizations. Thoughts will pop in, especially when we have our to-do list and we're like, oh, I got to do this. Oh, I forgot about that. And the point is not to get to a place where they don't happen. It's always going to happen, but it's getting to a place where you can let them go. They come in and you let them go as quick as they came without judging them, acknowledge and let it go. And that's going to help you later in the day too. Meditation's been shown to reduce blood pressure and resting heart rate, and lower stress levels throughout the day. So, and I feel like it's something easy and it does not take a lot of time. Yeah. And that can it's a big impact on health.
And I feel like the other things that you said, like even the exercise is going to help with the stress levels too, right?
Yes.
Like I feel like that burns the stress right off.
It does.
Then I'm just especially stressing about like, am I going to beat yesterday's record?
Yeah. Right.
Just a different kind of stress.
Yes, but it does. It definitely helps with that stress level to get it out, get your energy out. Yeah.
Thank you. That's a great tip. Okay, we've covered a lot. So I am curious. I usually do some sort of branching out challenge, I call it, for my listeners. If there's one key message that you want them to take away from today, one action that you want to challenge them to take to head in the right direction when it comes to their health.
Yes.
What are you thinking?
Okay, so out of all the things that we covered today, now people have the knowledge of things that can help and what they need to do. I think the biggest mindset shift is, what's your motivation? What is that deeper motivation that's going to lead you to make change? Because if it is a superficial, I just want to see a number on a scale, I just want to fit into a certain size pants, I want to be accepted by other people, that's not going to last, and that's not going to help you when you're confronted with these triggers, these things that kind of put you in bad habits. So you really got to dig deep to stay motivated and stay on track, because this has to be a lifestyle, meaning you do it the rest of your life. It just becomes part of your daily routine. So whether that's when I am 70, I want to be able to run around with my grandkids. I don't want to have joint pain. I want to be able to go on that hike in the Tetons when I'm retired. And so I think that is the biggest thing. I think once you have the knowledge, picking kind of what's most important and pressing to you at the time, something you really feel like, okay, I think right now this is the biggest thing that could help me with my my health, because I'm sure we have a lot of things we need to change. It's hard to do it all at one time. So kind of picking one thing and using that deeper motivation to keep you going. Once that becomes a habit, then you tackle the next. So,
is there, by the way, that's great advice. And I tell folks all the time, even in our full focus planner system, you write your key motivations for your goal. And that's where we go back to. When we hit that barrier, we want to quit and give up. It's the reminder of, why did I start this to begin with? So totally agree with that. But still, I'm curious. Say I have the option to fix my sleep, fix my diet, or start exercising. Where do I start? Like, is it different for every person?
I think so. I mean, if you need to work on all of it.
Well, most do. Let's be honest.
Everyone
almost
does.
everybody.
Everyone does.
Need to work on
I would say start with what you think is going to be the easiest.
Okay.
But I'd say exercise, honestly.
Okay.
Yeah, because if you're exercising, biofeedback, your body's going to crave healthier foods because you're going to need that nutrient-dense, not nutrient-deficient foods to give you the energy and give you the strength that you need. And I think that's going to help a lot with the energy levels, too, that we need throughout the day. So I would say exercise. With that being said, we did talk about how I exercised a lot and my diet was crap. So
yeah, you did get that one away.
I did. So I kind of gauge people's motivation in visits with them. Like, if I can tell they're just not going to be an exercise, they're just not going to do that, then I really focus on diet changes and the carbohydrates especially. Yeah.
Okay. No, I know what you mean. And I only asked that because I know the majority of people listening would have all the information and say, okay, well, now I know my motivation, but I still don't know where to start. I always go for greatest impact.
Yep.
Like, you know what I mean? And that's why I was curious. Okay, so I'm obsessed with lifelong learning and growth. I know anytime I talk to Kelly, she's always trying to learn something, and I am going to make an assumption you're the same exact way, or you wouldn't be in the circle.
Correct. Yes.
So what are you learning about right now? Are you studying anything interesting?
Yeah. So actually, I'm taking an obesity medication certification course. So cool. I'm halfway through it, so I will be certified. I already treat obesity and do all of this, but I think it's helped a lot in understanding the process behind obesity, and helping people understand that, once they get to a certain weight, their body is working against them when they try to lose weight. So it's not their fault. And so it's, working together to kind of combat that. So I think that's been really interesting in kind of what I'm doing right now. I think eventually I want to do functional medicine, because we don't learn a lot about supplements and kind of alternative medicine with the Western medicine style.
Yeah.
And I think that there are still things that are valid and could work for people, especially people that don't really want to take pharmaceuticals for everything. Yeah. So that is also in my horizon, but there's only so many hours in a day and these things cost money. So yeah.
No, I think that's awesome, and congratulations. I'm glad that you're going through that. And the functional medicine side, I know we talked about it beforehand, and I really do believe in that because it helped me with my Lyme disease, and so there is validity on both sides, and why we need to meet in the middle. I am so excited that you decided to join me today. I want to make sure that people can find you and see you as a resource beyond just this episode. So can you tell folks where to find Smarty Pants?
So we do have Instagram and Facebook. SmartyPantsMedicine.com is our website. And then call us. You can email. And we are on Plaza Drive. Right now it's kind of by appointment only, so we're not always there. So a little bit harder to stop by, but we do exist there. So, but yeah, social media is probably the easiest way. Yeah,
that's great. Well, I certainly hope that people come your way. I really believe in what you guys are doing. I know it's made a difference in my life. Awesome. So thank you for what you do.
Yeah, that makes me happy.
Yeah, of course. And I think that there are tons of success stories with it already in Winchester. I mean, when I talk to folks, if people know Kelly, it's always a great reaction, right?
Yes.
It's like, Kelly, great. Oh, she's amazing, right?
Yes. It made it an easy decision to go work with her. She's wonderful.
Yeah. Well, I wish you a wonderful journey with her.
Thank you.
Excited to see you guys grow. Let me know if I can do anything to support you.
Okay.
Definitely want to get the word out that you're there now, so hopefully this helps a little bit.
It will definitely. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, of course, of course. All right. Well, thanks for sticking around till the end of the episode. As always, we will release a new episode on Fridays at noon Eastern Standard Time. I'm excited to have added that Sierra's Essentials page on both the Branching Out podcast page and my business website. So if there's something that we mentioned on the episode that I think might be a valuable resource for you, I will pop a link on there so you can go right on the page and maybe purchase that. So we might have to be adding a Garmin on there as well. So until next time, keep branching out.